What are the ways that the mind causes us to suffer? The mind wants comfort. The mind wants the familiar. So when you grow up in chaos, that's familiar. When you grow up in trauma, that's familiar. When you have to be a chameleon as a child in order to get attention or food or your needs met, that's familiar. That continues on into your adult life. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe you were like a really good athlete and everybody looked up to you. And it was familiar to have all the eyeballs on you and for you to be achieving. And when you achieved, you got praised. That's familiar. That pattern continues on. So when we get a little bit older and our frontal lobe fully develops, we can get into a more awake state and realize the patterns that we're in. The overachiever pattern, the people pleaser pattern, the toxic self-defense mechanism patterns that we're in. Or maybe it's a suicidal pattern or a run escape pattern. When things get tough, when you get in a jam, when you feel trapped, you run or you want to hit the eject button. These are patterns in the mind. You know, I'm leaning more towards the ill patterns that happen in the mind, obviously. However, we have the ability to change the patterns of the mind. We can train our brain to be different. We can mold our mind into the mind that we want it to be. Is this an easy task? No. But the pain of the familiar has to outweigh the pain of the change, or you have to choose it. It's choose your pain. At least one way, if you choose to retrain your brain, rewire the mind, at least you have an opportunity for success. At least you have an opportunity for freedom. Because staying in the mind with the same pattern, repeating the same things, thinking the same thoughts, getting the same reality that you're living in on a daily basis, that's not going to change unless you change your thoughts. And it doesn't have to be super painful. The biggest thing that you can do is bring awareness to it. That's the first thing, is bring awareness to it. Once we start realizing that we're thinking these thoughts, thinking the same thoughts, and going through the same patterns, then we can recognize it, and then we can cancel it and think a different thought. This builds a new road in our brain. This builds a new pathway in the mind. It's a faint pathway at first, because those old roads, those old ways of being, those old ways of thinking have super traveled paths. And, you know, Joe Dispenza says the neurons that fire together wire together. So when we create these new synapses, these new neural networks in the mind by doing different things, by thinking different thoughts, they get more strength. And the old neural networks, they kind of fade. They lose their power. They start to dissipate and disintegrate because anything that is not strengthened and traveled moves into atrophy. I think that's the name. Atrophy. Entropy. I just ate some berries, so I got some seeds in my teeth. What isn't exercised or what isn't growing or being strengthened dies off into entropy, and it starts to dissipate. It starts to disintegrate. Just look at an old building that doesn't get maintenance. It falls apart. Car doesn't get maintenance, falls apart. Body doesn't get maintenance, falls apart. So does the mind. As I grew up and I got older, I started repeating the same patterns that I was taught as a child. I started repeating the same patterns that my parents did and society dictates to me. I developed ill coping patterns as well, ill coping mechanisms that don't really work very well for a good and happy and satisfied life. So over the last 5 years, I've really had to work on that. And I always had a vision of the future. I always had a vision of the future because 5 years ago, my whole life fell apart and my mind was crazy. I had thoughts spinning. I had smoke coming out of my ears. I was trying to figure out everything all at once. I wanted to fix all of it all at once. My emotions were running rampant like a roller coaster every day. But through lots of work, self-inquiry, exercise, therapy, meditation, yoga, and about 50 other things, journaling, praying, a lot of gratitude, a lot of acceptance, a lot of forgiveness, which is just really acceptance. I have a stable mind today. I have a great life today. And I wish that for everybody, because it's possible for everyone. No matter what has been going on in your life, it is possible. It takes a willingness and it takes a decision to change. And then after you make the decision to change, it takes focus and awareness. You gotta figure out what's going on up here. Write it down. Write it down every day. This is what happened today. I met this person. Now this is happening. Now this is happening. I'm back in the same place. I met this person. Now this is happening. Now this happening. I'm back in the same place. You'll see the patterns. You'll see the patterns of thinking. You'll see the patterns of behavior. Because if you can't see them, you can't change them. It takes a slowing down as well. It takes a slowing down to get your bearings, to know what's going on up here. Because running around and doing all the things and hanging out with all the people and consuming all the media and being on the social media stuff and fighting and consuming information is just going to lead you further down the rabbit hole of confusion and ignorance and unawareness. You got to sit down. You got to pause. You got to slow the mind down so that you can see the thoughts coming. Got to focus on your breath. Because when you slow it down, not only can you change your thoughts to something else, you can actually live in no thought here and there, much more than before. But it takes practice, and the point is not no thought, but it's very peaceful without thinking about everything all the time. Because there's really not a lot to think about all the time when you're not trying to complete a task or do work. A lot of energy that you have, energy is wasted on thought as well. You can move and use energy, but you can also think yourself tired. You can think yourself and drain yourself of energy just by overthinking. Ill thoughts create ill people. Ill thoughts create a dis-ease in the body. When we're not at ease, it creates stress. And when we have dis-ease, it creates disease. We just run the word together. Dis-ease, disease. But when we're at ease, when our mind's at ease, when our dwelling is at ease, when we have some peace and quiet in our lives and it's okay to sit in it and it doesn't drive you bonkers, then we can rest. Then we can get the rest that we need to be back at 100% tomorrow. Then really nothing's a big deal. There are no big deals in life. You can create big deals if you want. You can create a big deal if they run out of milk at the store. World War III is coming. We're running out of food now. Can you believe it? There's no milk at the store? I'm not going to that store anymore. They don't know how to stock shelves. I don't know. You just can create a story about anything, but that's, we are the masters of the mind. You can become a master of your mind. It's not about having no thought. I'll repeat that. But it's about thinking better thoughts. Because thoughts are additive. If you think that the world is bad, this is what I was going to say in this. Whatever you think is true, no matter what. Now, I can think something is true, and you can think something is true, and those things can be opposite, but it's true to me, and it's true to you. So whatever you think is true becomes true to you. So if you think the world is a scary place, the world is a scary place to you. And I think the world's a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful place to me. I think the world's a peaceful place. Well, at least my little corner of the world. But you're watching all the bullshit on TV and listening to the social media and the news, and you think the world is on fire and a horrible, scary place. And now your little corner of the world is a horrible and scary place. You get more of what you focus on. If you think there's no jobs out there, you won't get a job. It's going to be very hard. If you think there's tons of opportunity out there, everybody's knocking at your door, that will manifest in your life. But you got to believe it. You got to feel it, that it's true. You can't just say it. You can't just fake it. You can fake it till it is true for yourself if you want. That is a valid path. Whatever you say and whatever you think and whatever you feel is true for you. So choose wisely. Feel good things. Think good things. Assume the best. Assume the best is going to happen. And if something bad happens, it's okay. We don't have to create a big story about it, a big deal about it. We just move on. We adjust. We learn. That's what life is. It's a big school. It's a big school of learning. If you're full of faith, you're going to do a lot better than if you're full of fear. Focus on your faith. Focus on your faith. Focus on your gratitude. Grateful where you're at. Grateful for what you have. Faithful that it's going to be okay. Because it is going to be okay. Believe that. And then take little steps each day to make it okay. Do what you got to do to make it okay on a daily basis. That's what I do. That's what successful people do. That's what happy people do. We give up opinions on things. We don't have to win all the fights. We take care of ourselves. We find peace. We find a way to be okay. No matter what. I find a way to be okay every day. Some days I don't wake up the greatest, or some nights are tougher than others. But I find out what works for me in my life to change. Sometimes I just need a nap. Sometimes I need to go to bed early. Sometimes I need to phone a friend. Sometimes I need a walk. Sometimes I need to run really hard and move some energy. Sometimes I need a yoga class or visit some friends or a coffee or a tea. But I hope this inspires you to live a good life on a daily basis. It's not out there waiting for you. Once this happens, then I'll be good. Find good now. Be okay now. Whatever that looks like for you. And if you don't know what that looks like, start experimenting. There's plenty of opportunity to be okay in this world. You probably got to get out of the little box that you live in on a daily basis. Probably need to change what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're tuning into, who you're hanging out with. Put everything on the table. Nothing is off limits. But this is that, and that is this, and I need to hang out with... No. This is your one life. You're the star of the show. This is your movie that you live in. So do the things that make your movie effing badass. Drop me a comment if you have any suggestions about your life, or if you want to connect with me. I'll put my link in the description. We can talk about it. Your badass life that you're creating. I'm going to leave it at that. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video.